I am really excited about this call tonight. I think this is going to be really great. So my name is Alicia Inman. I am a Ruby ambassador, and I have been with Plexus. I started as a customer in July of 2014, so I'm coming up on my 2 years of being a customer. And then I signed up in August, but didn't start really working the business until October. And then Shannon, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of get started.
Okay, I'm Shannon Singer. I'm Alicia's sideline partner, and I'm also a Ruby ambassador. I started out as a retail customer. So embarrassing. But I did that for only like 2 weeks, and then I was like, I'm joining as an ambassador. And I've been an ambassador since October 3rd, 2014. And so excited that we're doing this.
Yes. So we were in our training on when we were at convention, and it was for for Ruby and Senior Ruby, and they talked about a lot of different things, and a lot of them were really, really great. But the one that we really felt like would benefit you guys the most as our teams was to talk about mindset and about just being motivated and not giving up when the going gets tough, because we all know from experience that the going gets tough a lot. So we want to talk about mindset a little bit and share what was shared with us. And then I have been reading this book, and this book is called Switch on Your Brain, and it's from Dr. Caroline Leaf. And if you watch the call that Fallon Black did, it came out a couple of months ago. It was a really, really great call, and she recommended 4 different books, and this was one of them. And I picked it up on Friday. I've had it for a while, but I was reading something else first. But I wanted to read this to get a little bit of information for our call. And I sat and read it for like 2.5 hours. So it's really fascinating. It's got a lot of great stuff. I'm nowhere near done, but I'm going to kind of give you guys some snippets of what I've gotten out of it so far. And I highly recommend you all get yourself a copy. So Shannon, do you want to start with talking about what Kelly Norman talked about, and then we can kind of bounce back and forth on that, and then I'll go over the book stuff?
Sure, yeah. I just kind of took some notes from what I had from our Ruby session, and she really, they talked about the leader, even if you just have one customer or an ambassador under you, you're considered a leader, and how it's so important for the leader to maintain that momentum, because if the leader does not have momentum, that affects the whole team. And it starts with, for you having a vision, a passion, and enthusiasm. And just also, a culture of success. People are going to buy into you before they buy into your vision. So she really talked about just being positive with your team, instilling a lot of confidence in your team, because pretty much everything that the leader does affects the whole team. When the leader is not enthusiastic, the whole team is not enthusiastic. And she just talked about too, how communicating with your team daily is so important, and building relationships with all of your ambassadors. She said, it's so important for you to know all of your ambassadors, their why and their goals, because that's a way for you to, be able to help them. And she focused on, and I know Alicia will probably touch on this too, but just focused on a lot of think more, it's easy for us to constantly think about our weaknesses, but think more about our strengths, and have your ambassadors tell you 5 of their strengths. She had us do that in the Ruby session. They were get out a piece of paper and write down, 5 strengths. And I was kind of okay, because usually I'm always I'm weak at this, I'm weak at, and so she talked about, how it's so important to get all of your ambassadors to focus on their strengths, and to be able to tell you their strengths. And so that'll help you to be able to help them too. Let's see.
One of the
you want to
sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead. She said about strengths and weaknesses that I wrote down and like highlighted and starred and like made a lot of notes around, was she said to take the word weakness out of your vocabulary, because they're simply just non-dominant traits. Like, we are not weak as people. We have traits that are a lot stronger than others, and we have some that are just not strong, but that doesn't mean that we're weak. But we need to focus on our strengths, and by focusing on our strengths, it will help to improve those non-dominant areas, but just taking that completely out of your vocabulary. And she said, like, when you ask someone, what are your 5 strengths? And they may give you 1, maybe 2, but then they're probably just going to sit there and wait for you to say something else. And she said, just be comfortable with silence. Like, don't engage. Like, don't suggest something that may be a strength. Like, don't bring things up. Just sit there in silence till they come up with 5, which is going to be very uncomfortable. But I think it does make you have to think harder if somebody's not going to feed you those, that you really have to like think about what are those strengths.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And she talk about the Strengths Finder book? I don't know if any of y'all have seen that or read that. Jessica Heffley has talked about that book before, but she said that's a really good book if anybody's interested in reading like a personal development book, but it's about finding your strengths and focusing on your strengths and stuff. And so just a couple more things that I had written down was just, believe the best about your people and your team. It's so important to create an inspiring and a contagious vision, because, the team watches, your teammates, everybody watches everybody, and everybody especially watches the leader. And, you want to remove the fear of failure. You want to provide a vision and confidence for your whole team and passion. And she also said, do not desire someone else's gift. Discover and celebrate yours. I thought that was a really good point too. But let's see. Oh, one more thing that I also have down, they were talking about that's helped. One of the Jules talked about this, and she said, one thing I tell my ambassadors is this: if I saw something that was holding you back in your business, would you give me permission to tell you? Do you remember that part, Alicia?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. So, I think it's important to just create like a team atmosphere too of, where with your sponsor, you're able to talk to each other and help each other out. And if they see something, that might need improved, just be coachable, be willing to listen to what they have to say, and, just trying to be more positive and less negative. And, being a leader, no matter how many you have under you, how you are will affect your whole entire team. That's basically a lot of what I learned, and learning a lot about personal development. She really talked a lot about personal development and, like what is the book, Alicia, called? The Four Color
Personalities of MLM. Yeah. And that's by Tom Big Al Schreider. I might be able to reach it. Hang on.
Yeah.
And this book is like less than 100 pages. I read it in about an hour and a half. It's fantastic. Not only to help you understand your prospects, because that's really what it's about, is how to prospect new people, like how to judge quickly what color they are and then how to approach them. But it also kind of helps you understand your team and where each of those people are, so that you understand how they're approaching the business and how they're approaching their prospects. Because if you don't really understand their personality, you're going to have a hard time coaching them. So this has been really great. I have really liked it. I have not read StrengthsFinder 2.0, but I was actually at a meeting last Friday where somebody did like a 30-minute talk based on that book. And it sounds really intriguing. And there's, I guess, a test online you can take as well as like read the book. So I think that that'd be really interesting. I want to do that, but she said it's kind of a lengthy test, so I've not sat down to do it yet. But I think that that's good, because a lot of times we're hesitant to just define our strengths, because sometimes what we consider a strength is not a positive attribute to other people. I'm a very assertive person, and I'm very straightforward, but not everybody thinks that's a good quality for me to have, because that means I don't sugarcoat things and I'm not always super nice about it. But to me, I think being assertive and being straightforward is a really great thing, because it means I can be very direct and I get to the point. So a lot of times we have a hard time classifying what our strengths are, because we see them in a negative connotation based on somebody else's perspective. But if you can take a test that tells you, okay, based on these 200 questions you answered, I have no idea how many questions it is, but based on these questions, 50, that's still a lot of questions. So it's not like it's like a 5-question test, like, internet quiz. If it can guide you to like recognizing your strengths, then you understand what you need to really focus on and how to use them better. So I think determining your strengths is a really great thing. One of the other things that they said in that training that I really kind of got a lot out of was, she said, when we were talking about strengths and weaknesses, she said, you make a horrible me, but you make a beautiful you. And I've heard Tamara say this before, that like, she was trying to be Celeste or trying to be Suzanne, but she had to come to a point where she said, like, she was praying and she said, God, just make me the best Tamara that I can be. And I think that a lot of times we get focused on, oh, I want to do what she's doing, or I want to grow as fast as he did, or whatever the case is, rather than just being the best me that I can be. And so when she said that, I thought that's really great. And then another one was that there's no expiration date on your purpose in life. And I know that a lot of us feel like Plexus was brought to us, like we prayed for an answer and it was Plexus. And so if this is our purpose, like our God-given purpose in life, there is no expiration. If it takes me 10 years to get to be a diamond, then that's fine, because this is where I'm meant to be. So not giving up on that. I felt like that training was really beneficial. I really, really enjoyed it. There was a lot to it. I'm still processing. I'm still going through and like typing out my notes, because I took a lot of pictures of slides because I couldn't write fast enough. So I'm trying to interject both of those and work through it. But I've read back through my notes numerous times since then, just to kind of get some clarity and perspective on things. I do want to go over a little bit of this book from Switch on Your Brain. And I don't know you guys, and I'm not going to kind of pretend to know you, because that would just make no sense. But I want you to understand that this book is written with a very scripture-minded point of view, and that this researcher has gone about her career as a scientist trying to research to prove that the scriptures are correct. So if you are not a believer, that's fine. Science still proves it. But if you are, then it just kind of makes things even more exciting. So I kind of want to go over a few things. Like I said, I am not even close to finishing this book. The first half of it is really an explanation of the research and how it works and how our brain and like the actual cells develop and the DNA that can be changed by our thoughts. But then the last half of the book is a 21-day brain detox plan. And that is very much a, today you do this, and, you're going to work on these thoughts on this day. And then, okay, now you've identified these thoughts, let's classify them. And then let's work on this tomorrow. And really planning out how we can change these thoughts to further benefit us. So I'm going to read you a few quotes that I found in here. So in the introduction, like the foreword of the book, it says, what would you do if you found a switch that could turn on your brain and enable you to be happier, healthier in your mind and body, more prosperous, and more intelligent? You can, through conscious effort, gain control of your thoughts and feelings And in doing so, you can change the programming and the chemistry of your brain. And then she references 2 Timothy 1:7, where it says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. What we are thinking every moment of every day becomes a physical reality in our brain and our body, which affects our optimal mental and physical health. These thoughts collectively form our attitude, which is a state of mind, and it's our attitude and not our DNA that determines much of our quality of life. There's another point in here where she gives statistics for this, and 75 to 98% of mental illnesses and behavioral illnesses come from one's own thought life. That means that anywhere from 25 to 2% are strictly genetic based or environmental based, that are not created by our own mind. And that, to me, like, that's incredible. If you were to hear somebody say, like, if you're, watching a news show and you heard somebody say that and you thought they are just completely crazy. But she presents the research, and that there are studies that she mentions, the doctors who did it or whatever. So if you want to go look them up and read through the research articles, I'm sure you could do that. But that's incredible to me that, we can control so much of our mental and physical illnesses. And at one point it mentions cancer specifically, and I think it said 80% of cancer cases are related to your thought life, that are not genetic or environmental.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Like, I actually have wow written in here multiple times. So one of the other things, it said that we are wired for love, which means that our mental circuitry board is only for the positive, and we have a natural optimism bias that's wired into us. It's comforting and challenging to know that negative thinking is not the norm. Negative thinking leads to stress, which affects our body's natural healing capacities. And I think all of us would wholeheartedly agree that when we feel stressed, we get those physical manifestations of it. You get headaches, or your skin breaks out, or you have pain, or, tiredness, muscle fatigue, all of those things that happen because of the stress. And so, learning how we can train our brain in order to stop those negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts. And there's a quote in this book from Peace Pilgrim that says, if you realized how powerful your thoughts are, you would never think a negative thought. And obviously that would be grand in a real, in an ideal world, but we know that's not possible to never think a negative thought. But it is exciting to think that we can lower those and we can control them with practice. We know that 21 days is what it takes to build a habit, which is obviously why there's a 21-day detox plan in this. So doing this on a daily, consistent basis is something that will really benefit us as we go through the long run. Another place in here, she said that our brain is neuroplastic. So it's not, many years ago, they felt like our brains were what they are, and they could never change. If someone was in an accident or had an illness that affected their brain, they could never recover. And we know now that that's not true, and that our brains can change and regrow. New nerve cells are birthed daily for our mental benefit. And she relates that to the scripture from Lamentations 3:22 and 23. The Lord's mercies are new every morning. And how great is that to think we are growing new brain cells every single day and new nerve cells to rewrite those things that maybe we didn't do so well yesterday. So she said that daytime thinking is a building process, where nighttime thinking is a sorting process. So we need to, and I read an article the other day, not even related to this book, that said 10 minutes can change your life. So 10 minutes before you go to bed every night, you need to think about and hopefully put down on paper positive thoughts for the next day, what you're going to accomplish, how successful you're going to be. And then first thing when you wake up the next morning, you take 10 minutes and you read through that, and you set your mind for that day. So 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night to really concrete in those positive thoughts. Daytime is when we do that building, but nighttime is when it's a sorting thing. So if you think those positive thoughts right before you go to bed and you get in the right frame of mind, then all night long, as your body is creating new healthy nerve cells and like new brain pathways, it's using those positive thoughts you went to bed with. And then when you wake up in the morning, when you put those into action, it's just concreting them in. And it's just phenomenal. And like, it's so fascinating because I think most of us, I don't know all your team, most of us are probably parents, and we see that. You have a kid who goes to bed and can't walk, trying for months, and then the next morning they wake up and they can walk, or they can talk, or they can do those things that they've been trying to do, because when they go to bed at night and their brain can sort through those and then create new pathways, those things become easy and they become routine and habit. And it's just phenomenal to see that. She also said that research has shown that DNA actually changes the shape according to our thoughts. So they did some testing and they actually pulled out DNA, and when somebody was having negative thoughts, it actually changed the shape of the DNA in their cells. And
wow.
Yeah, but here's the good news is that we can then, by thinking positive thoughts, change those back to the healthy positive state. They go right back to the way they started. They're not like semi-healthy in a mutated shape. They go right back to the way they were when they started, if you can stop those negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts. So it's the quality of our thinking and the choices in our consciousness, and then our reactions that determine that brain architecture, she calls it, that shape those DNA. And then the resultant quality of the health of our health comes from that, which is just, I mean, it's incredible. I don't think I'm ever going to think the same way again, because we hear a lot that, oh, well, thinking matters and you need to think positive thoughts. You need to say positive affirmations. You need to do those things, but we don't really think about the actual, reasons behind it. And the fact that scientifically they can see in a microscope or in an MRI that our brains are functionally changing and the physical beings of our cells are changing. It says that what God has empowered you to do with your mind is more powerful and effective than any medication, any threat, any sickness, or any neurological challenge. We are not bound by the physical, but we can control the physical. So it's not mind over matter, but our mind controls the matter. Because our mind, with our thoughts, we can literally change the physical makeup of our DNA and all of our cells. Our brain is changing moment by moment. And by what we think and the choices that we make, we are constantly redesigning that landscape. There was another one that I don't know where I wrote it down. But it says that we are God designed us to do our own brain surgery and rewire our brains by thinking and by choosing to renew our minds. And one of the other scriptures that they talk about is Romans 12:2, which I wrote down. And part of that says that we can be transformed by the renewing of our mind, and how real that is. And a lot of this book is just saying that science is finally catching up to scripture, and what God told us many, many years ago is that he designed us to be able to do this. We're created in his image, and so we can control those thoughts and we can make those changes. And we were designed for positivity and for health and for being in a good state of love. So those negative choices and those negative thoughts that we have are not the ordinary. So if we can stop those, then we can make drastic changes. So what I think the biggest takeaway for me so far from what I've read that I want to leave with you guys is what your mind creates, only your mind can take away. No amount of counseling, no amount of praying, no amount of talking is going to get rid of it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things, because I think they're all great. I think talking to your friends, your family, I think praying, I think counseling, I think they're all great. But it's our thoughts that control it. So the only way that we can take it away is by creating new thoughts and stopping those negative thoughts. So like I said, Switch on Your Brain. It's by Dr. Caroline Leaf. I would highly, highly encourage a copy for everybody. And I don't know if it's on Audible, but I will tell you, I'm a very it is. Okay. I'm a very science person. So I enjoy this. I enjoy like the, actual biology of it and the anatomy of it. My sister said she tried to read it and like couldn't even get through a few pages. It was too sciencey for her. She had to put it down. So it may be kind of hard to listen to on Audible because of that. And maybe something you want to like reread a paragraph a couple of times to really grasp that. Not that you couldn't just replay it, but there's lots of highlighting and notes in here already. So, and there's a lot of diagrams that you can't see. A lot of the 21-day detox, if I can find a diagram, it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see. It's kind of hard for me to see, and I have a look. So, like, obviously, this is like some of the thought pathways that she outlines. That would be kind of hard to go over in an Audible. So I would highly recommend the actual book. I don't remember how much it cost. I got it on Amazon. I don't think it was all that much. But I think that this is going to be transformative for a lot of our businesses. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Shannon, do you have anything else before we give them a challenge?
Wow, that's huge. Like, I mean, we can so apply that with our Plexus business and our team and being a leader. Just wow. Yeah. I mean, you've always heard, you are what you think, but gosh, that is huge. Yeah. That's exciting though, to find that out.
Yeah. And there was one other thing. I see that Luann has her hand raised. I will get to you just 1 second.
It's fine.
Okay. So, like I said, we've been told a lot to do positive affirmations, and I think that they're great, but I think that we don't know how to do them effectively. And according to this, it says that research shows that there is a negative side effect to positive self-statements and affirmations, showing that individuals with low self-esteem felt worse after repeating positive self-statements. And I think that it doesn't really say why, but it does reference the actual study. So I'm going to look that up and kind of read through there. But she does talk about there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Like you say it, but your mind knows it's not true. So it actually makes you feel worse than better. So instead of maybe positive affirmations about things that are so far in the future that they will be eventually true, but your mind can't really wrap it around that yet, making smaller steps, changing those small thoughts on a day in and day out, every minute of every day kind of scenario, rather than starting your morning with, I am going to be a Plexus diamond, because I believe that. But I tell you what, there are days that it is a struggle for me to say it and like 1000% believe it. So I found that really fascinating, that there are actually research studies to show that some people feel worse after positive affirmations. So they may not be for everybody if we aren't doing them with the best of intentions. So, Luann, what was your question?
Oh, actually, I just wanted to add, I'm real busy, so I very seldom have a book in my hands, but I have Kindle on my phone.
Yeah.
And I downloaded this book, and one of my favorite parts of it is your mind can powerfully and unexpectedly change your brain in positive ways when you intentionally direct your attention. The most effective way to improve your brain is a daily, step-by-step process, a lifestyle of thinking your brain into better functioning so that it turns into whatever you expect it to be. As he thinks in his heart, so he is. Proverbs 23:7. And I got this through Amazon, and then it does have the Audible. Okay. And I've been listening to this book with my husband everywhere we go. And it really, truly is an amazing book.
Yeah. And that was one of the other scriptures I was looking for. I thought I wrote down, but I couldn't find it. So as a man thinks in his heart, so he is.
Yes.
And, I mean, I don't know that, like, I have chills right now just saying, I don't know that we can get much more real than that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's right there. And I mean, it came directly from God, and he's telling us, like, what you think you are, you will be. So we might as well use those thoughts wisely, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Luann, have you got to the 21-day like brain detox yet?
Yeah, I have. I've actually just started into that part.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated to get to that. Like, I can't wait to like do that and get, 21 days down the road and see all the changes. And it's not like you stop at 21 days. By then it's just a habit and you do it for life. But this gets you started for 21 days, which I think is great. So if nobody has any more questions, we're gonna challenge you guys for the rest of the month. No more questions? Okay. So, Shannon, did you check your reports? How many people do you have?
Yes. Well, it was 307, but I think Luann added one today. Did you add one today, Luann?
Yes.
Okay, so it'd be 308. It was 307 today.
Okay. And I am at 296. Just so we all know the numbers. Nobody's cheating. Nobody's going to be doing anything. We are going to challenge you guys. My team is going to compete against Shannon's team, and we are going to see who, by changing our mind and thinking our positive thoughts and stopping our negative thoughts. It's not just about thinking positive. It's about stopping the negative. As quickly as it comes into your brain, recognizing it for what it is, knowing that it won't benefit you, and stopping that, and then replacing it with a good thought. And then we're going to take that momentum that we had from the July 4th special, and we're going to see which team can add the most new ambassadors by the end of July. So July 31st, or the 31 days in July, at 10:59, I'm going to screenshot my report that shows how many people I have, and Shannon will do the same, and then we will see who has added the most. So Shannon's at 308. I am at 296. I'm going to double check that just to make sure nobody's been added since I left for Vacation Bible School earlier. Because that's been a few hours. But then we will get you guys that final tally at the end of the month. But and I don't know, we haven't even talked prizes. I have no idea, but it'll have to be something good. I'll probably, like, everybody who adds an ambassador, yes, I'm still at 296. Everybody who adds an ambassador will maybe go in a drawing for something.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that'll work.
So, but I'm really excited about this because I really do, like, as I was reading this book, I thought, oh, like, I don't even know how to summarize it. Like, I just want to, like, read the whole thing to you word for word because it's that good. And really what I did say was a very condensed version of the notes I made. So, it's just, I think it's going to be that impactful. So I encourage you guys to get this book on Audible, like in print form, on your Kindle, however, and start taking that in. I know that there are plenty of other books on mindset and the way our brain works. But this one, to me specifically, just because of the use of scripture, I find a lot more engaging and empowering. She starts every chapter with a new scripture and then how it links to the new science. So I think that, like, obviously that's her goal in life, is to prove the scriptures right through science. So I just think that that's really fascinating to me. So I'm excited to see how this month ends for us. It'll be great, and we'll all get Leaders Retreat points as we do it, which is even more fun. So we can all hang out in Dallas. So
exactly.
It will be a great, great time. So
awesome. Yeah, this was so good. Like, yeah, I'm going to totally, like, my thoughts are going to be totally different now. And I'm trying, ever since they told us at convention to focus more on your strengths, I think that's huge because it's really easy to get down with your negative thoughts all the time.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, like you said, I notice when I'm thinking negatively, I don't feel as good. So that right there, I'm like, okay, that's that makes sense. That's why. Our brain is a very powerful organ.
It is.
Along with the gut, it controls our whole body.
It does, yeah. And it's, I obviously had not read the research to show that like the actual shape of our DNA and like changes based on those negative thoughts. And I have seen the research that shows like water molecules change shape and under a microscope, like if they play like loud, scary, like rock music, they actually look very jagged and angry under a microscope. Whereas if they're played like soft classical lullabies, they form into very beautiful like patterns and like repeating patterns, but they're like ornate and like beautiful as compared to like the negative side. Those water molecules change into like very like angry looking, and considering our bodies are made up of like 80% water, it only makes sense that the same would go for us as humans, that those same thoughts, whether negative or positive, can make such a huge impact. So
wow.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Can I add something to that?
Please.
I have actually seen footage of a synapses rerouting because I took some conscious discipline training, and that is a new thing in education. Well, it's not really new. It's more recent than other things, obviously, but it's totally different on dealing with children or dealing with people in general, because our minds do not work in that do this because I say so mode. They just don't. And I got to see two brains. Well, it's the same brain. One prior conscious discipline, one after like so many years or something, or it was like a child that had been abused and neglected and not loved, versus after that therapy and after that those new implementations, and how the brain did change physically did. So I've seen that. It's out there and it's very powerful, and it's not, this is something that is going to be the way things are done. It's here. So that's all I have to say. But I've seen yeah.
Have you applied that to yourself, or were you thinking about it like in terms of others?
I haven't, like, this is still kind of new stuff for me, but I was so intrigued by it that I'm just like, I've got to learn more about this, because nothing else works. Nothing else works. The yellow, red, green thing doesn't work with kids. It doesn't work with people for some reason. Consequences don't work with people, and it's all about making a conscious decision, using your brain and believing in doing things, and and using love and positive things, but it's definitely not like a gushy, we don't say no, let the kids do whatever they want. It's not a hippie thing, okay? It's not like that at all. It's very scientific, and it just works with how the brain works. So, I mean, it's that is all proven and relevant in other areas too. So it's worth really looking into. So yeah.
It's just an exciting, like I find it fascinating and exciting that we're finally learning about our brain, because for so long they didn't think it could change, so they didn't really try to learn about it. But now knowing that we physically have the power to change it makes it really exciting. So I'm really glad you guys are on here and stuck it out to the end. I know we had a few that had to get off, and probably for bedtimes and things for kiddos, but thank you. I'm excited. Shannon, thank you for you and your team joining us, and it'll be a great time.
Yes, this was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, and then in August we'll have to get back together. So
yeah, let's do it. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, have a great night, and I will get you this recording as soon as it's uploaded.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. All righty. Bye, guys.